In this video, you will see clips from a presentation delivered online called 4 Forms of Support: How to Create Emotionally Safe Spaces. Interestingly enough, the night before I was to deliver this presentation to an audience online, our daughter had a car accident and called us for support. You will see this illustrated in many of the clips. Enjoy. So Kelly actually called last night and she texted us this picture. That's our Kelly, our sweetheart. When you have somebody who's immediately in a distress situation, you would create emotional safety. This is getting her, just checking, and we asked, are you okay? Because maybe she needed to go to the hospital after an accident like that. And our grandson was in the car as well. Is he okay? So you're checking for physical safety. And we were directing her as to what to do. And we said, you just hang on, you just stay there, you just stay at the side of the road, and we're gonna call the authorities and find out whether the police are gonna come to you, whether, do you think your car is drivable? We went through all these safety pieces before it was concluded that she would drive home. If you've got the person in the same space as you, I encourage you to be incredibly present with noticing facial expressions, noticing thinking, noticing words, noticing the situation. You become the noticer when somebody is in a high distress state and they're at risk of either wanting to fight, yell and scream, and you don't take any of that personally, or fleeing, wanting to leave, or collapsing and not being able to think clearly. You welcome connection so the person who's in distress knows that you are present. I'm here. I will take care of this. I hear you, that you've had an accident, and start to take over, if they will allow, in the pieces that you can do, such as we said, we will call the police. You just stay there and look after yourself and look after Eric. If it was a different situation, if you can get somebody to sit yourself, it will also help with a sense of grounding. So you engage your body, and soft eyes when you're sitting, warm face, and an open posture. Yeah, so somebody comes into your home, or you're going to somebody else's home, and you're saying, I'm here, then that means full on. Of course, I'm finding in some ways doing online therapy easier because I know that just to look in that camera is the most important piece for me to do. And for me to do it with as much openness as I can. Full on presence. And I talked about the noticing. Notice, it's like your flashlight, noticing pieces that maybe that person that's in high distress doesn't notice. See, we're going to talk about a few really key listening skills that sometimes we take for granted. And sometimes we say, oh, it's that simple, or oh, it's that hard. So we have a poll, and it lists four listening skills. And what I'm going to invite you to do is to click the one, there's going to be 4, the number 1 listening skill that you know you have, that you affirm, yes, I can do that, and I do that skill. Okay. A third of you say, I let others know when I have time to really listen. Yes, that's important. For example, this morning, because I knew I was doing this, and I asked my son if this morning or before early afternoon, if he would check in on Kelly, right? So designating somebody else is sometimes what we need to do. So you let other people know when you're available to them or not. I seek first to understand what someone says before I jump in. That's a very good practice. It was Stephen Covey, the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, who died just a couple of years ago, who said that line, seek first to understand before you try to convince other people some kind of point. Especially when people are in a high stress state, they're probably not going to hear you anyway. Even when I disagree with the talker, I wait and seek to understand. Very good policy. There is a really important place for silence when you're providing empathetic support or support to another person who's in distress. However, you need to make sure that they know that you are present and you're not just checking out and daydreaming or making up your menu for supper, right? So, and there's a way around that, and it's sort of in between silence and indicating that you are there and present. These are 3 classic listening steps. The first is to indicate you're listening and you've got nowhere to go. And you do that with your words, with your eyes, looking at the person, you're not diverting. Your posture, sitting is really, really good. As I mentioned before, I'm here, I'm listening, I'm not going anywhere. Okay, that's the first. The second is to affirm what the person is saying. I have spent up to an hour with clients that were all steamed about something and they couldn't wait for like a counseling session. So on the phone, sometimes just saying, okay, oh, wow, oh, gosh. Catch, if you can, the emotion and you support it. If there isn't support in those emotions coming up, they get stuffed. And then we're back to creating trauma. So you catch the emotion. That's why we're very much in witness mode. Noticing anything that we can so that we can be supportive of processing. I'm going to give you a quick feeling lesson here. We understand when babies have feelings, and then we forget this when we see adults. But yeah, this little guy feels sad. It's my grandson. These pictures are very old. He's now 17, but this baby was not injured during this experiment. It all had to do with lunch. And I noticed his feelings were coming up, and so I started taking photos. So yes, so right now he's sad because he doesn't have lunch. And right here, he's feeling really hurt because I think I came over with something, it wasn't peeled right, and I took it away. So he let me know. And this one, he's scared. His food started sliding. He picked up his bowl and he started tipping the bowl over the edge of the high chair. And here he's feeling scared. And these feelings all give a message to him, so sad is I don't have what I want. Hurt is what I want was taken away from me. Scared is what I want is at risk of being lost. And angry is I've got the energy to get what I want. So darn well get my lunch here. And happy is the message. I got what I want. We want a range of feelings, and that's what's called emotional intelligence. Okay, point number 3 is support hope in the present. Once we get somebody calmed down, we would help them reorient back to the present moment. We make sure that we are make sure that our breathing is calm in the first place. And then second of all, we might invite our person who's in distress to join us in some deep breathing. Might just say, how about you take a breath or two? I'll breathe with you. Another technique is to share. Last night, later in the night with Kelly, I shared with her how I responded to a car accident. Problem solving, we had to go through some problem solving once everything got down. Her prefrontal cortex is back on. What do you need to do about contacting the insurance company? You need to take the car into the police station. And then you do a wrap up. You got to separate somehow. And what do? if someone's in person or on the phone, how do you wrap up so that there's some comfort, so that you know that somebody's going to have a good night's sleep? Well, you make a plan, and the plan can be as simple as self-care. What are you going to eat? It helps people often to know what next steps are. Winding down, like sometimes if I'm at my kids' homes, curl up. I'll put a blankie over you. I'm here when you need me. And make a date for a follow-up. I will call you, and we made several. We will call you in an hour. Then we'll call you later tonight, and I'll be calling her later today again, just to check in. And if it's appropriate, offer a hug.